Hi and welcome to the final episode in this season of the Sutton Program, hosted by GU Rocketry and sponsored by RS Components. In today's episode, we will be covering rocket recovery, how it works, the important parts, and how rocket recovery has changed over the years. Building rockets is a time-consuming, difficult and expensive process, so making sure you can get back part of, or hopefully all of your rocket after a launch is essential to any rocket program, from what we do here at GU Rocketry, all the way up to the biggest and most expensive rockets in the world.
Rocket recovery systems have two aims: to protect the descending part of the rocket and to protect the payload or crew inside.
So far, almost every recovery system ever used has used one piece of technology that's older than planes, cars, and even steam trains: parachute. Parachutes are simple, lightweight sections of material that work by trapping air under the canopy, creating a drag force on the object that's descending, allowing it to land safely on the ground.
In general, parachutes have two components, the drogue and the main chute. Recovery systems can have multiples of each, but there is almost always at least one drogue and one main chute in a rocket recovery system. The parachute system is designed this way for a variety of reasons. Firstly, the drogue acts as a stabilising force on the rocket, slowing it down and ensuring the rocket stays in a suitable orientation during descent. The drogue chute also makes sure that the rocket fails to reach speeds that would make opening up the main chute dangerous or impossible. However, a drogue chute does not slow the rocket down as much as the main parachute would, which is essential if we ever want to find the rocket when it lands. This is due to the drift the rocket can experience when the main chute is deployed.
Drift is a term used to describe the lateral movement of the rocket during descent, which becomes significant once the main chute is deployed.
The wind causes lateral drag on the main chute, which contributes to a large drift in descent. This can be fixed with increasing the rate of descent by employing the drogue chute first, and then deploying the main chute, meaning we now have a much smaller area to look for the rocket.
Where and when the parachutes need to deploy is determined by the flight computer and avionics systems discussed in the previous episode. In our rocket's example, the flight computer sends signals to the pyro channels, first at apogee to deploy the drogue chute, and then at a specified altitude to deploy the main chute later on. These signals ignite explosive charges inside the rocket body, breaking these shear pins which hold the rocket body together, releasing the parachutes.
Now that we've slowed the rocket's descent, we need to think about the systems that we can employ to ensure a safe landing when the rocket touches back down. With our Saltire 1 model here, we have reinforced the body to stop it from breaking apart when it hits the ground.
But our model is a fairly lightweight representation of a rocket. With heavier rockets, engineers need to get more creative with how they disperse the forces on touchdown. One method that should be familiar to those that own cars are crumple zones, which increase the amount of time it takes for an object to come to a full stop, reducing the force per second felt by the payload inside. We know this from our discussion around force and momentum from episode 2. There are many ways that engineers make landing safer for payloads, from landing with inflatable airbags to landing in water. When landing in water, it's important to use buoyancy aids to make sure that the rocket stays on the water's surface. However, a slightly less familiar method used for decelerating rocket modules are retro thrusters fitted to the underside of the rocket to provide a lift force just before the rocket touches the ground, making the landing safe. This idea of using propulsive force to land rockets was expanded upon and allowed for one of the greatest innovations in rocket technology to happen: fully reusable rockets. As discussed before, rockets are divided into stages, and for decades it was assumed that when the first stage separated, it would fall and crash to the ground. It just wasn't possible to recover such a large section of the rocket, but in 2013, California-based company SpaceX made the impossible a reality. With this technology finally made possible, the cost of launching into orbit has been cheaper than ever before. This has been done by improving the rocket's recovery system. The landing system uses a principle called thrust vector control, where the rocket's sensors tell its orientation in space and compare that to a desired orientation. Using a continual feedback loop, we can change the direction of thrust of the rocket so that it can reorient itself into the correct angle, direction and speed for landing. Finally, I wanted to touch on the difference between orbital and suborbital recovery. The difficulty with orbital recovery is the horizontal speed of the object that we're trying to recover. If you were to travel at orbital speeds inside the atmosphere, your module would heat up to dangerous levels and likely be destroyed in a matter of seconds. When two bodies collide, the two surfaces rub against one another, generating heat because the particles at the surface now have more energy. This same principle applies to any module entering the atmosphere from orbit, Unfortunately, this is currently unavoidable, so engineers need to come up with creative ways to disperse the heat felt by the craft once it's entering the atmosphere. Right now, the best solution to this problem is to apply sacrificial heat shielding to the module and bring it in a shallow path as it comes back into the atmosphere to avoid it heating up too quickly. This means that currently there are no truly reusable rockets from orbit, because every time a module re-enters the atmosphere, the heat shielding needs to be refurbished and replaced before it can go back up again. In the future, a combination of advancements in materials science and engine efficiency will hopefully allow for fully reusable orbital rockets, even further reducing the cost to access space. We hope you've enjoyed watching our Sutton Program episodes as much as we've enjoyed making them. A big thanks to RS Components for giving us the platform to share our love of rocketry and hopefully inspire some of you to come work with us here at Glasgow University. Rocketry is at an exciting time in the UK right now, so make sure to keep updated on social media or on our website with all the latest news. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you again soon.